So, wir haben eine neue Reaction und zwar ein Video von Coop. Ich weiß nicht, wer das ist, kenne ich nicht. Irgendein Ami, glaube ich. Und in dem Video geht es um Erika Kirk. The Many Lies of Erika Kirk, Part 1. Family and Child Trafficking. Wer Erika Kirk nicht kennt, das ist die Frau von Charlie Kirk, die in der Öffentlichkeit sehr dadurch aufgefallen ist, dass sie ihren verstorbenen Ehemann damit betrauert, dass sie eine Elon Musk-esque Tour durch Amerika macht, wo sie Stimmung macht, Merch verkauft, mit CO2-Kanonen in die Menge schießt, mit Nicki Minaj auf einem Pedal drüber redet. Also, the devil. Sagen wir es mal so. Ich bin sehr gespannt, was alles im Video rauskommt, weil ich weiß schon, dass sehr viele Sachen da drinnen sind. Ich sehe zum Beispiel in Rumänien, glaube ich, eine Foundation oder sowas gehabt, die für Entwicklungshilfe bei Kindern und so weiter zuständig ist. Und das ist aber Child Trafficking, also da wurden Kinder verkauft. Allegedly. Aber ich glaube, das wird in dem Video alles erklärt. Schauen wir mal ran.
Today we're going to be diving into everything I could get my hands on and find about this situation with Erika Kirk. From the foothills of Romania to the fentanyl-laden streets of New York and everything in between. Because Erika Kirk is a very unique individual. Her name is echoing around the world, and yet no one knows her full story. Her husband was one of the most powerful men in politics, leading a huge portion of the youth, yet no one knows when his wife was speaking into his ear, and it would seem quite a bit. She is such a ball of hypocrisy and paradoxes and strange connections that I wager no one knows the answer to the most basic of questions about her. That being, who is Erika Kirk? So in this series, we're going to seek to find the answer to that question. And trust me, I would not have expected that the most basic question possible was going to take us so many episodes to get to. And I most certainly did not expect that it would leave me wondering if Charlie really was a contemporary Truman Burbank.
Tell me what's happening! You're part of this, aren't you?
Ich sag mal kurz, bevor wir reingehen, was ich bisher weiß. Sie kommt ursprünglich aus Rumänien. Sie hat in Interviews und auf ihrer Tour bei Charlie Kirk jetzt darüber gelogen, dass sie davor keinen Alkohol getrunken hat, dass sie nicht gedatet hat. Sie hat nur eine Person irgendwie gedatet vor Charlie und es sind diese christlichen Werte, kein Sex vor der Ehe, bla bla bla. Ist alles gelogen. Die hat bei irgendwelchen US-amerikanischen Reality-TV-Shows mitgemacht, hat mehrere so, keine Ahnung, D-Promis gedatet und war mit denen zusammen, hat Alkohol getrunken, gibt es auch Videos davon, auch in diesen Reality-TV-Shows, wo sie dabei war. Und sie hat auch irgendwie gesagt, sie hat vor Charlie 5 Jahre lang niemanden gedatet und hat eben dann zum Glauben gefunden oder so. In der Zeit hat sie irgendwie 8 Boyfriends gehabt. Ja. Und jetzt gerade versucht sie halt das Maximale aus dem Tod von Charlie auszuschlachten, um halt politisch, gesellschaftlich und finanziell davon zu profitieren. Das ist gerade so der Punkt jetzt. Ja, und dabei gibt es eine Menge Unterstützung aus dem Magerlager. So. Alles, was man jetzt über Erika Kirk rausfindet, macht Charlie nicht zum Opfer. Er ist mindestens genauso problematisch. Ja, das stimmt. Charlie Kirk ist ein faschistischer, ultra-rechtsradikaler Populist gewesen. Mehr nicht.
With someone like Erika Kirk, who is both a liar and a chameleon, it can be very hard to nail down the facts about her. From the years of 0 until her mid to late teens, very little is known about her, but we are going to go over the basic facts we can ascertain before moving ahead. On November 20th of 1988, she was born to Lori and Kent Francevy in Ohio. Her parents would divorce not too long after Erika was born, some stating within the same month that she was born, which is odd. After this, Erika lived with her mother, Lori, in Scottsdale, Arizona, and at the age of 17, Erika began a nonprofit named Everyday Heroes Like You, meant to serve orphans domestic and abroad, an organization that has since gained quite the infamous reputation we shall touch on as we continue.
Yeah.
Other than that, we know that after high school, Erika attended Regis University in Denver, Colorado for some 2 years, playing both basketball and volleyball there, prior to making a return trip to Arizona, eventually graduating from Arizona State University. And she graduated with a degree in political science and international relations. During her last year or so of school, Erika, despite no confirmable experience in the pageant world, decided to take a swing at pageantry, entering the Miss USA circuit. Erika competed in 2010, taking the runner-up place, and in 2011 winning Miss Arizona, which then allowed her to compete further on. More will be spoken on all this later, because it's not only really bizarre, but we found some new stuff that makes it even stranger. But as of now, these are just the facts as they stand. From that point on, Erika spent some 5 odd years living in New York, allegedly dating no one, which is a
Das ist jetzt der Punkt, den ich vorher meinte.
lie that we will also touch on. And during this time though, she was building a clothing brand named Proclaim and having a devotional podcast named Midweek Rise Up. In 2018, she begins dating Charlie Kirk, and in 2020 they're engaged, and in 2021 they get married. Allegedly they have 2 children as well, and that as it stands is the very basic level about Erika Kirk and her timeline. So now we can go on and add some color and really get into the interesting bits of information.
Schauen wir ran, bin gespannt. Bin sehr gespannt. Das ist
Firstly,
jetzt vom Basic her das, was ich jetzt wiedergegeben habe, plus ein paar mehr Details, die ich glaube ich noch dazu geaddet habe, von Sachen, die ich schon wusste. Und jetzt wird das nochmal erklärt, wie das genau abgelaufen ist mit den Details, wie es funktioniert. Also schauen wir mal.
Everyday Heroes, the organization which Erika supposedly started to help children. It has been a jumping off point for many calling into question who Erika Kirk actually is, and understandably so, as we shall see. And I'm sure if you've done any research on Erika Kirk, you've probably heard of this. However, during research, I found some stuff I don't think I've seen anyone else talk about. So let's get into it. Firstly, raise your hand if you've started a nonprofit. Okay, what about one for orphans? And then what about one for orphans in foreign countries? And then on top of that, you did it at the age of 17. Okay, so now that no one's hand is left in the air, I'm gonna be the bad guy for the first of many times in this video and say, I don't think that this story is 100% true as to how it happened. I do believe the nonprofit is real. I just don't believe it was solely Erika Kirk and the goal of helping orphans. And that's not too hard to get behind, because if we look into Everyday Heroes, they have a program known as Romanian Angels. Romanian Angels was a group of Americans who went over to Romania to help children in orphanages over there, giving them things like Christmas presents and clothing and some essentials. But if you're Romanian or aware of Romania and American relations, you might know that Romanians aren't really comfortable with Americans in foreign assistance.
Wie, woran liegt das? Hä?
Because it hasn't gone well in the past. In a region located in the southeast of Romania, which also happens to be close to where this orphanage is located, there's an American military base. It's technically NATO, but let's be honest, we foot the bill for the whole squad. And the base is named Mihail, or however you say this word in Romanian, and it's been embroiled in controversy for many years. In fact, since its inception, it's had a terrible reputation with the locals, with involvement in crimes from drugs and weapons trafficking to things that are even worse, like human and child trafficking. Most specifically, the
Was? Aber die USA würden das doch nie machen. Die sind doch die Weltpolizei, und das ist doch die machen doch nur, das sind doch die Guten, oder? Die würden doch, warum würden die sowas machen? Warum hat man davon noch nie was gehört, hä?
trafficking of local Romanian children for their usage in an on-base brothel where high-ranking military officials and other wealthy folks will go and do the most deplorable things to kids.
Was? Und das sind alles weiße christliche Männer? Das kann doch nicht wahr sein. Was?
Some of these children having been sold to the base, some of them having been stolen from the surrounding areas. This long history of this behavior came to a head when a former translator at the base named Anna Maria Nuciu came out and said that the man in charge of the base, Colonel Otto Buscher, had been in charge of stealing and selling these kids and pricing them and arranging some interactions, we'll call them. And we know this because she gathered a series of messages and even a DVD, all of which have been taken except for
Und es ist natürlich eine Frau, die diesen ganzen Scheiß aufklären muss, weil es ja sonst niemand macht, ne?
a couple screenshots, but all this information was acquired and it discussed the things like the prices of children and places for them to be and apartments where they were going to meet for these behaviors. Yeah, awful stuff like that. And the way Anna got a hold of this information is because a computer came into her possession when hers stopped working in the previous...
Ich finde das so absurd, dass sowas eigentlich schon, ich glaube, seit Jahrzehnten jetzt bekannt ist. Oder zumindest Jahre. Und die Epstein-Files ja auch, beziehungsweise halt zumindest die Beziehungen von Jeffrey Epstein zu vielen Leuten. Und es trotzdem niemanden interessiert, dass apparently vom mächtigsten Land der Welt fast ausschließlich Kindervergewaltiger in den hohen Ämtern sitzen.
owner for whom she was borrowing it from was evidently kind of a troglodyte, it would seem, and he didn't delete the evidence that was on there, and it was sitting in word processors and emails on the computer, as well as other repositories. Literally all she had to do was open it up and she was like, oh my goodness, they're selling kids. It's undeniable that it's happened, and it's also been covered up. And we know that it's been covered up because we have almost none of the materials except for these couple of screenshots that Anna managed to get. How Erika Kirk and her ministry is related to this, though, I'm going to make a long story as short as possible. The orphanage orphanage Erika was working with was in a very similar region to where the military base is located. And in addition to that, more incriminatingly, Erika's nonprofit released a YouTube video, and I'm going to play a segment of it on screen for you guys. And obviously the audio has been removed for copyright reasons.
And these are my little angels from Antonio Placement Center in Constanța, Romania. Our goal with the Romanian Angels Project was to show these children the true American heart during the holiday season. And what better way to do that than having our United States military personally deliver the gifts?
Seems relatively normal, besides the weird voiceover that I hope I was able to show you guys. But what's undeniable is that to make an event like this possible would require some serious connections. And so Erika goes on to thank some of the people involved in making this orphanage and American assistance connection work, and references one specific man by the name of Colonel Otto Buscher, III to be precise. Buscher is about as rotten as they come. He was mentioned previously as the one that this translator called out very specifically as being in charge and being the ringleader for this child trafficking and
Upsi. Hoppala. Da haben wir wohl den Typen, der in Rumänien Kinder bepreist, verkauft und vergewaltigt. Zufällig bei einem Event von Erika Kirks Kinderhospiz oder was auch immer das sein soll, in Rumänien gefunden. Hoppala.
trafficking ring. And this would then mean that Erika's organization was in direct contact with a fellow who is being accused by countless children and Romanians as being involved in these illicit operations involving children. And make no mistake, we aren't talking about some people who feel this way about the American military. What we gather is that a ton of the Romanians in this region, in fact, possibly even the majority of Romanians feel this way, that the Americans have an awful presence there, that they do terrible things to the children, and that they are a part of these trafficking rings. That's kind of the public sentiment over there. Granted, these are poor areas, so it's a little bit hard to get the most recent information. And if this seems outlandish to you, Romania is by no means the only country reporting these things. Just research the company on screen now. They know all
International.
All about this. Back to the story though, we would have.
Die wissen alles davon? Was ist das? Bosnien. Oh. Afghanistan. Dinkos-Mitarbeiter waren unter anderem im Norden des Landes, in dem von der Bundesrepublik Deutschland geführten RC North im Raumkurs und Ausbildung in Afghanistan. Okay, Gazastreifen, Kritik. Glyphosat. Okay. Naja, spannend.
Assume that Erika herself then was in direct communication with this colonel because she had to be to set this up, and then I would presume that it was the colonel who chose this specific orphanage from his existing Rolodex. And looking over the story so far, to many it seems like far too many coincidences are at play and in a row, especially considering that once these allegations arose.
Nein, das ist alles nur Zufall. Das ist halt einfach irgendwo in Rumänien am Land, zufällig, wo diese Army Base ist, wo zufällig die ganze Zeit Kinder verschwinden, wo zufällig das uncovert wurde, dass dort US-Soldaten Kinder vergewaltigen und verkaufen oder stehlen. Und auch zufällig ist dort von Erika Kirk ihr Verein. Ganz zufällig.
Buscher clearly had some
zufällig mit denselben Personen.
High-level connections because he just resigned and now lives a cushy life in America, suffering zero repercussions for his actions.
Das ist übrigens der allerwichtigste Punkt. Das ist nicht nur in Israel so. Und weil das immer wieder Leute erzählen, ja, aber Justiz, nein, Justiz kann Eier lecken, da passiert nämlich genau gar nichts. Legit nix, okay? Die Leute kommen einfach frei, kriegen absolut keine Strafe, genau wie der Typ.
Obviously that shouldn't seem like justice to anybody.
Und andere werden einfach US-Präsident.
Most especially doesn't to the Romanian families who claim that these children in child trafficking rings are still operational to this day. Like the translator who connects this ring to the disappearance of two Romanian girls named Alexandra, something Romanian, and Luisa, something also Romanian.
Aber so rein hypothetische Frage, dass da die beiden Tate-Brüder, also Andrew und Tristan Tate, wegen Sex-Trafficking und Child-Trafficking in Rumänien angeklagt und festgehalten wurden und dann von Trump freigelassen wurden und nach Amerika gebracht wurden, ist sicher nur Zufall, oder? Das hat gar nichts damit zu tun, oder? Es sind einfach viele Zufälle.
Two girls were simply living life in 2019 when they were kidnapped. The first one was found not too many months later, deceased, and I'm going to spare you the details of the second one because it's become an infamous case in Romania, and it's horrifying and a long story. But at essence, a 15-year-old girl named Alexandra was kidnapped and then violently repeatedly before being trapped in a home by a man. She managed to call the police 3 times, giving very key information, even narrowing down her location despite having been blindfolded to the area she believed to be in based on what she heard while she was in the van. And the police told her that they were too busy or they didn't care and that they had other calls. And for all intents and purposes, they left her to die. And I'm being serious.
Hallo. Bună ziua.
Aber die Polizei ist doch unser Freund und Helfer. Das kann doch nicht sein. Chat, die sind doch da, um uns zu beschützen. Und die würden doch niemals Korruption dienen oder irgendwie Teil von einem Kindervergewaltigungs- und Handlungsring sein, oder? Polizei, unser Freund und Helfer. Hä?
Vreau și în legătură cu poliția.
And it truly would end up with her deceased because although we're not
Rechte, Christen, weiße Männer, Pädos, Militär, Polizei. Das ist sicher alles nur Zufall, dass die alle damit drinstecken, oder? Und man so gut wie nie was drüber hört.
100% certain that she actually was deceased, she could be in a trafficking ring. We do know that there was a barrel on the man's property who abducted her, and all that was found of her were dental pieces. So take that as you may. Why a story like this is important to bring up in relation to Erika Kirk is that many Romanians speculate that something bigger is afoot with cases like this. And really, most prominently, the translator puts this story forward because she's seen all the information and she would know, but she basically insists that these 2 girls were taken as part of a human trafficking ring, which are at large in Romania. Now, that's not 100% unsurprising. In fact, a lot of the community think that this guy was a patsy for a larger operation, but the translator goes on to say that these girls might have been abducted into one of these on-base brothels and sold to men. And to add a little bit of color to that point, it's not like these girls disappeared from a part of Romania that was particularly far from American military presence. In fact, the places they disappeared from are no stranger to the American military and foreign involvement. And so keeping that in mind and the fact that there are known rings and many of them operating in Romania, doesn't take much to think that something must be going on here. In fact, there are many essays you can read just about the horrors of what's happened with orphanages in that part of the world. But back to the story, not only did the police refuse to go and assist Alexandra despite her calling 3 times from the captor's house, they also waited 19 hours to investigate the house where the calls came from. And it's known in Romania as an obvious example of government corruption and possible covering up of these rings, but no one seems to know why precisely the police would have waited so long, because a corrupt police force wouldn't want to make it that obvious, right? And here's where I introduce a little known but very interesting fact that in 2001, Romania was strong-armed into signing a deal which precluded them from ever investigating US military crimes conducted on Romanian soil. And that
Ey, Chat, warte ganz kurz, mir ist kalt. So.
would include cases of child trafficking occurring in proximity to US military across the nation of Romania. So basically, any crime committed by a US military member or relating to the US military, the Romanian government has 0 authority to investigate. And then I want to add in here again with that in mind, that the
Warte, das heißt, die rumänische Regierung darf nicht darin ermitteln, weil dort die US-Militärbase ist und die dort die Jurisdiction haben, aber die sind damit involviert? Das kann ja nur Zufall sein.
Romanian police not only ignored this girl's calls, but then waited 19 hours to go to the scene. It seems a bit odd, and I'm just speculating that 19 hours is more than enough time for a military investigation team to come in and clean up the crime scene and make it seem like nothing really happened there and dispose of whatever evidence might.
Das würden die doch nie machen, das wäre ja böse. Warum sollten die das machen? Das Militär ist ja dafür da, um uns zu schützen, oder?
Have existed. And so with all that in mind, I must ask why Erika Kirk went to this specific man who is known to be involved in massive organized child trafficking rings to help her bring gifts to a foreign orphanage for foreign children while being a child herself. After all, like most of you, I can count on 0 fingers and toes how many international child traffickers I know. And I also can assure you that I would never go to that person for help with a child-related matter. And if somehow, in all honesty, I didn't know that someone I had worked with in the past was a PDF file and an international child trafficker, when I did find out that they were such a evil individual, I would denounce them publicly. especially when I have a massive public presence and could even get him strung up since I am buddy-buddy, or in some cases, very buddy-buddy, as one might say, with the President and Vice President of the United States. In fact,
Naja, böse Zungen würden ja jetzt behaupten, wahrscheinlich will sie Trump davon nichts erzählen, weil der den wahrscheinlich auch kennt, weil der wahrscheinlich auch Kinder für ihn besorgt hat. Aber so kann ja nicht echt sein, oder? Es ist ja der US-Präsident, von dem wir reden. Der wird doch niemals was mit Kindern haben, oder?
I would say this would especially be the case if I, being Erika Kirk, claimed to be so dedicated to the service of children around the world. And it's not like Erika Kirk doesn't keep up with videos like this on her and these references to her past, as she has made jokes about the Egyptian plains and other occurrences in speeches. So until I see her push for a man as demonic as Otto Buscher to be arrested and strung up, I'm gonna suspect the worst. Because who would be silent on such a matter if you really love kids and want the best for them?
Ja. They love kids. Halt leider in einem nicht legalen way.
So unlike what the mainstream slopaganda might tell you, it's a little more than a case of in the wrong place at the wrong time when it comes to Erika Kirk and her time in Romania. And really to round it out, here is a quote from Erika Kirk solidifying her position in Romania. In the past 2 years, we have gone global with our Romanian Angels project and teamed up with the United States Marine Corps to joint sponsor an orphanage in Constanta.
Okay.
Romania. I absolutely love working with the military, so I feel blessed that we can do that on a continual basis through Antonio Placement Center in Constanta, Romania.
Romanian authorities are looking into possible links between Israeli adoption agencies and an illegal global conspiracy to sell organs for transplants. Kleiner Ausflug an die Seite. Vielleicht hat jemand von euch ein Video, was das gut darstellt, weil das würde ich auch im Stream anschauen. Ich habe das über mehrere Quellen damals auch gelesen und mich informiert. Israel ist tatsächlich bekannt dafür, dass die seit Jahrzehnten den größten Organhandel auf der Welt betreiben. Das ist nicht seit kurzem so, sondern seit immer. Und ich frage mich halt die ganze Zeit, woher kriegen die diese Organe her? Wie kann das sein? Man müsste ja theoretisch so um die 10.000 oder 11.000 Gefangene haben, die man einfach als Terroristen deklarieren kann und die man legal foltern darf, ohne ihnen jemals einen Prozess zu machen oder ihnen einen Anwalt zur Seite zu stellen, weil das sind ja Terroristen, aber halt ohne Beweise. Und die auch niemand vermissen würde, weil ihre ganze Familie tot ist. Aber wo könnten die solche 10.000 Leute herbekommen? Oh.
Again, it's no secret what the US military and contractors in the whole rigmarole is up to in these parts of the world. Again, I'm going to flash a company on screen, look them up after this. And by the way, all these reports about corruption on these bases came out in 2020, well before the Erika Kirk accusations erupted, so it's not like these were made up out of nowhere. Also, Erika Kirk has way too many military connections. It's weird. I don't know of anyone else who's ever won a miss something and ended up getting to fly in advanced military technology and refuel fighter jets midair. So she seems to have some connections that go deeper than what we might even expect now. Not to mention all the pictures and videos of her with other officials and meeting generals as well. That being said, I do think this is a great lead off then into who exactly Erika Kirk is related to, as that's one of the best ways to get an idea of who somebody is. And after all, you don't get connected with high-ranking military officials stationed abroad out of nowhere. Someone has got to know someone, you know? So let's start with her parents. Her mother, Lori, we'll call her for now, as we know, left Ohio and her husband right after Erika's birth for Scottsdale, Arizona, where she worked for a couple corporations, including GE, which everyone likes to conveniently forget has a weapons division, before going it on her own and starting her own business and eventually businesses. The publicly known ones are AZ Tech, G Tech, E3 Tech, all of which are and/or were involved with the Department of Homeland Security, the Pentagon, and other such military-inclined organizations. But don't take my word for the military connections. Take Erika's.
Can I ask a question? This might be off topic. How did your mom choose Phoenix?
So she chose to move to Phoenix from Ohio because there was more of an opportunity for a female business owner out here. Especially from the standpoint of she was getting involved with the government, so Homeland Security and Department of Defense. And so she had other business partners that were out here that were already in that industry, even one that was...
Okay, also das ist die Connection, wie sie da hineinkommt, so Familie halt einfach, ne? Sogar die bösen Menschen, was heißt sogar, das ist ja eigentlich nichts Neues. Die bösen Menschen sind alles Nepo-Babys.
was a mentor of hers, so it was really convenient to be able to come all together in one place.
But then again, that may just be a teensy-weensy part of the puzzle, because Erika's mother is not only known as Lori Francevy. I know, gasp, shock. She has, according to a number of data scraping sites, gone by 7 to 8 different aliases, which doesn't really make sense to me. She was never married again, insofar as we are aware, so after her first husband, she should have gone back to the maiden name, right? But for some unknown reason, she didn't, and she kept her husband's last name, whatever, because even that in mind, it wouldn't explain all the other different last names she's had, as well as a bunch of the other middle names that keep shifting that she has as well. 7 to 8 names of various kinds with different middle names and last names sounds a lot more like someone trying to cover up their identity than anything else. And also, so you know this isn't a glitch, multiple Osnet tools confirm that there are these various shifting names belonging to Erika's mother, all being tied to the same address where Lori lived the whole period in question. Even stranger, Lori makes another appearance somewhere at first entirely unexpected, and something leaked, I believe in part by Snowden, and it is a list
Shut the fuck up. Das ist verrückt.
of NSA employees. And lo and behold, a name almost identical to Erika's mother is on that NSA employee list. But Cooper, you say, it's not exactly the same name. Maybe it's someone else, right? But no, if you follow the address, I'm not including for the sake of common decency, it leads back to the home of Erika Kirk's mom during the time she was living there. And considering that this is an NSA document, maybe then Lauren Francevy is Erika's mom's real name. Despite the fact that
Digga, ihre Mutter war einfach bei der NSA und wurde von Edward Snowden aus Versehen gewhistleblowt und deswegen ist man auf das drauf gekommen. Das ist ja insane.
everywhere lists it as Lori, and since we already know that Erika's mom has these publicly listed corporations, I thought we might try and find something else by looking for Lauren Francevy and if she's connected to any other businesses. And so I began searching under the name Lauren Francevy and found relatively quickly a very outdated listing for something known as G-Tech Industries, which was supposedly sold in 2018 for around $500,000. And yet there seems to be no evidence of any customers this business ever had, or money ever being made, or even a reasonable product being sold. And what's even stranger is that this listing appears to be a fluke. It's an
Nein, Digga, what the fuck? Hä? Erikas Mutter ist nicht nur NSA-Mitarbeiterin, sondern ist auch noch in Geldwäsche und Korruption involviert.
old repository from the government system Edgar for searching all sorts of government documents, including business filings. And when you search for G-Tech on some government websites, you either get no results or a 404 forbidden error. Now that's odd. Some might even say very odd, that unless I'm doing something incorrectly, which has happened once or twice, methinks the government might be trying to hide something or keep something quiet about this company. But other than that, I did not see any other leads on G-Tech Industries. Oh,
Gibt's da irgendwie Kommentare schon drunter oder sowas? Nein, oder? Verrückt.
oh yeah, except that I did. I recognized one of Lori's pesky little name swaps. Remembering this is registered under a Lauren Francevy, not Lori Francevy, and everywhere it tells me this woman's name is Lori, not Lauren, then this company must be registered under a false name. But whatever, I don't like the government, and so as the kids say, Lori, I ain't gonna stunt you, cuh. But I am going to point out that the other board members for this company, that being G-Tech, have some interesting names, one of which shares a last name that Lori on other occasions uses for herself, despite not being married to this man, based on
Das heißt, das sind alles keine echten Personen, oder wie?
all the available marriage records I could see. Okay, after recording this segment, I went back and I decided to research a little bit more about G-Tech Industries because it's different than the G-Tech that's listed on Lori's LinkedIn and other places. So I was like, what is this? I decided to give it another look because it was just so odd to me that it was under a different name. This one being Dr. Lauren Francevy. Also emphasize doctor, I don't know where that came from. However, I went and started looking more and I actually did find something more than originally. First thing I found was that supposedly they do 1.4 million in revenue, but I don't have any evidence of an actual customer, no testimonials that I could find, no product that I could really find, all vague things like that, about to be expected for a front company. But what really caught me off guard and is gonna be further interesting when we get to Erika's father, Kent, was this G-Tech Industries company has a profile and on some random business website, where they describe what companies do. I don't know how I was able to find it. I'm gonna presume there might have been some old website that they pulled it from, but from that we were able to get a description of what this company says they do, and it's very bizarre, especially considering the information we're going to learn about Erika's father later on. G-Tech Industries may be the only company that is dedicated solely to addressing the growing threat of EMP, that being electromagnetic pulse, both by an enemy or solar flare, by providing proven, patent-pending technology. That seems kind of like an oxymoron. And products aimed at protecting the US and foreign governments and their citizens. G-Tech specializes in keeping critical infrastructure operational when all forms of energy are lost due to natural or man-made threats. And backup systems are rendered useless. G-Tech's founders are highly experienced with EMP hardening, and the management team has previously worked with major defense contractors. That would be Erika's mama. And our intelligence community. G-Tech founder Dr. Lauren Francevy has over 25 years of business and technical experience in the fields of telecommunications and software development, cyber systems, and aerospace engineering. G-Tech's co-founder Larry Gunta has over 40 years of business and technical experience in the fields of mechanical design, electrical power generation, microgrid integration, advanced control systems, and specialized computer, cyber, and supervisory control and data acquisition systems, SCADA. And what is really my first question about this?
Das klingt so, als ob AI das geschrieben hätte, aber der Text ist älter als AI.
What governments are you working for? What products do you have? And where did you get this suddenly 25 years of experience in business and technical stuff in an area like this? Because according to your resume, I don't see anything that would make me go, wow, EMP protection business makes a lot of sense for this woman. Based on Erika's affinity for a certain country and some videos that I've shown in passing of Lori, I feel like I have a guess at which foreign governments you've helped out and worked for. And this kind of confirms some of the speculation about Erika's mom's involvements with countries. A lot of people have speculated that there's an Israel connection here. And if I was to point to a piece of evidence that would make me go, that really might be the case, it would be this, because we know that Lori seems to also have an affinity with Israel herself. And there's a video of her at a parade of some kind.
Also wirklich, also seit ich in den Palästina-Aktivismus reingekommen bin, ist es einem alarming, humorous Level, wie Israel wirklich überall involviert ist. Das ist wirklich absurd. Es gibt nichts Politisches mehr, mit dem ich mich befasse, seit ich dieses Thema aufgenommen habe und gelernt habe darüber, wo das nicht vorkommt. Das ist so vollkommen absurd.
With a bunch of Israeli flags in the background, which then makes me wonder even further about how deep Lori's connections with our government and foreign governments go, and then Erika's connections herself. Like, what's going on here? And why is there a G-Tech and a G-Tech Industries? And why do we have a Lori Francevy and a Dr. Lori Francevy? And what has she been doing this whole time? And to find that out, I tried looking up this company more, G-Tech Industries, and not just...
Man könnte ja schon fast mutmaßen, dass die irgendetwas für die Regierung machen, was nicht legal ist. Und deswegen müssen sie dauernd ihre Namen ändern, eine Shell Company machen, Geldwäsche betreiben, bekommen Geld für niemand weiß, von niemand weiß, aber 1,4 Millionen im Jahr anscheinend, mit 2 Mitarbeitern, die dieselbe Person sind.
Just G-Tech, and I actually did find something. But first though, before we get to what I found, because it's kind of crazy, the primary industries that this company is listed as for is household goods, manufacturing, nonprofit and charitable organizations, and just organizations. So they seem all over the place, and it doesn't seem like anyone really has a firm grasp on who these people are or what they do. I was also able to find out on a listing that 10 years ago they raised $490,000 in investment money. Not sure where that money came from. And the website says it's undisclosed investors, but it was all from one source. So possibly the government funneled them money. But keep all this strange EMP company stuff and unknown sources of money in mind when we discuss Erika's dad later, because there's a weird parallel that's forming with these two. I also, though, when researching, was able to find a video, an advertisement of some kind for this G-Tech Industries that was actually listed under a completely different name. And it's basically supposed to be a demonstration or a description of their product from these two old dudes. But these old dudes have no camera presence and seem really nervous to be on camera. I would be too, because what they're trying to sell is a briefcase and say it's EMP proof.
I'd like to introduce my colleague and mentor, Arigato.
Warum kommt mir der Typ bekannt vor?
Larry Genson, Vice President of G-Check Industries. As Chuck mentioned, we are involved heavily with a unit we call for serve gear, which we're calling the brain box, which contains this box a aluminum sealed box that allows us to quickly put our electronic devices such as hard drives, memory drives, flash cards, thumb drives, cameras, walkie-talkies, vital communications.
Tolles Product Video.
Digressing though, they've rebranded to something named Serve Gear, which is what the website listing is for now. And when you follow that back, over the course of like the past half decade or so, it's been completely inactivated. But going back before that, you can see a homepage, but it doesn't have any products listed on there. I don't know if it ever did. As far as I can tell, it did not. It does go to add to the point though that if you have a company raising a little under $500,000 from one unknown, undisclosed source, and they've never sold a product, kind of just seems like a funneling of money operation or a front company of some kind, especially considering Lori's history, we'll call it, with other governments and our government. It is nice though to see people admitting that they are deeply government connected and not wasting our time. Okay, I'm done yapping to the camera now. Let's get back into the video. But it seems like there's a different story beginning to form. And so either it is this NSA or government cover-up like we discussed, or she's just straight up committing fraud, because I'm fairly certain it's illegal to give false names for something like this. But what do I know? Besides all that info, while on her mom's side still, Erika never seems to mention her maternal grandparents and even uses the incorrect Swedish terms for grandpa and grandma in old posts of hers, making who exactly her
My war hero, my angel, my morphar, mother's father.
family is, at least on that side or that part of that side, indecipherable at best, which is convenient for later and things we shall discuss, because it muddies the waters a lot. Like a lot. Imagine if you could make one half of your family truly obscure at best, or completely indecipherable at worst. Who and what you are related to would be impossible to distinguish, and so remember that for later. My bad, where are my manners? Pretty please. However, this would only be the first half of the familial equation, so let's review her father, Kent Fransby. From the outside, he seems like, well, I don't know what he seems like, because I couldn't even show you a photo of the guy, if I'm being honest. Not like I can't because it's restricted, but more so I can't because we have no idea what he looks like. Mostly because I am not aware of any known photographs of the man. That's
Holy shit, Alter. Das ist crazy. Das ist crazy. Dass du in Zeiten wie heute nicht existierst im Internet, ist verrückt.
a little odd considering how well known her daughter and son-in-law are. One would speculate Pops would pop up in a photo or two, but no, not as far as I can tell. Which is not just strange, but an achievement. It's hard to keep a low profile online as a typical American in this surveillance state, but when your family are some of the most well-known Americans, especially in the political world, well, now we're talking basically an impossibility. So who is this guy then? Well, we know he was an entrepreneur and is related to several businesses online based on available resources, including one named AZ Tech International, which is distinct from one of Erika's mom's companies named AZ Tech. Confusing.
Ist sicher nur Zufall, dass die alle gleich heißen, die Firmen.
I know, and I imagine that's gotta be part of it. From the best I can tell though, AZ Tech International is another odd company with no real customers it seems, or public ones at least, little to no online presence and very few references online. And from what we can see though, it also appears to be government related in terms of whatever it produces, and has, according to some sources, received $2.6 million in government contracts. There's also speculation that Kent was an executive at Raytheon and helps outfit the Israeli Iron Dome. The jury is out on that one though, and it's not exactly something you would ever really expect to get a yes or a no on.
What the fuck?
Either way, in any case, Kent Fransby is an oddball, that seems pretty clear, but his family situation gets even stranger. His dad, aka Erika's paternal grandfather, is a man named Carl Kenneth Fransby. Can't lie, it's a pretty regal name, and I must admit it has a certain essence to it. Pausing to yap a moment, I want to preface this next part by saying one way you can almost always tell someone is deeply connected to the upper echelons of power is if they are involved in the currency industry in some capacity, especially at higher levels. And therefore it should be to no one's surprise that Carl was vice president of manufacturing for American Banknote Corporation, a company nearly as old as the United States itself, which is involved in the production of currency and making it more counterfeit resistant. Okay. Yes, that is about as close as one can get to money without literally being the printer. Furthermore, he was an elder member of the Swedish Order of Vikings, which is at essence a Freemason adjacent fraternal organization, try saying that 10 times fast, showing much of the oddballness therein that we've come to expect of a Mason or Masonic-esque organization. And he was also so well regarded in his life that the King of Sweden, Carl XVI Gustaf, knighted him for promoting, quote, American and Swedish relations. Well,
what the fuck? Hä? Ich dachte schon, ich weiß schon ein bisschen was über dieses ganze Thema, aber das ist ja absurd. Der Großvater von Erika Kirk wurde vom schwedischen König geehrt, weil er in Amerika bei der American Banking Corp, basically, die das Finanzwesen der ganzen Welt kontrollieren, ein hohes Tier war. Und ihr Vater ist ein Phantom, obwohl er in Regierungspositionen arbeitet anscheinend, irgendwie mit Israel connected ist. Und es existiert nicht mal ein einziges Foto von ihm. Die Mutter ist auf der NSA-Whistleblower-List von Edward Snowden, hat mehrere Ghost Companies, die von anonymen Spendern mehrere Millionen bekommen haben, die ein fiktives Produkt erstellen, was nicht existiert und an niemanden verkauft wird. Und du findest diese Firmen nicht mal mehr. Und die Tochter hat mit den ganzen Military- und Government-Connections, die ihre Familie schon hat, mit 17 ein Non-Profit für Kinder in Rumänien eröffnet, was dann gemeinsam mit US-Officials, die dort für Child Trafficking und Rape verurteilt wurden, beziehungsweise jetzt auf freiem Fuß in Amerika sind, das gemacht haben. What the fuck? Das ist so weird. Warte mal, meine Katze wird dran. Like, what the fuck is going on? Was passiert da noch? Das ist crazy.
If that reveals anything for certain, is that I guess we should be calling him Sir. But in any regard, it seems like Erika isn't quite the product of a typical American home, as we have been told. But it's even more bizarre from here, because Erika's dad also seems to have owned some preparedness company, as discussed by Erika in an Arizona article from many moons back, which more prominently with the increased Erika questioning has become more well known for its bizarre advertising.
Make flight reservations out to LA at 7:45 a.m. for my confirmed photo shoot, then head over the shooting range for some target practice with my dad and talk about his emergency preparedness bug out bags that just recently hit the market. Naja, das klingt ja nach diesem Koffer, oder? Der angeblich ein EMP wäre.
And by preparedness company, I mean prepping for EOD. Before I get ahead of myself though, let's just watch the advertisement that her father uploaded to his YouTube channel. I'll play some snippets of the clips for you guys. It's actually a pretty long video, so I'm not gonna play all of it. And obviously though, I had to take all the audio. And in case we were concerned that this was a video from a different Kent Fransby, you can't really make that argument seeing as Erika Kirk is herself in the video repping the set. First,
what the fuck? Einfach Doomsday-Verschwörungstheoretiker. Und er baut dafür einen Koffer, der dafür da ist, einen Prepper-Koffer für den Weltuntergang. Das ist absurd.
and foremost, it's never a great sign to have a high-ranking member of the upper echelons, or at least he appears to be, talking about the end of times, let alone trying to sell people on it. And from the video, it's pretty clear that this is predicting the collapse of the nation and a survival scenario. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with being prepared. I sure stay prepped, but this is not the action of a typical prepper. This feels like something far different. After leaving home, we have only a few blips on the radar for Erika. We know of the couple of pageants she participated in, as well as a few licentious YouTube videos she filmed of her quote-unquote working out. We're not going to touch on those yet, probably a bad use of words, because I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. But what we do know beyond that is she was also doing this devotional and this clothing brand, neither of which ever seemed to really make money at all. But I'm open to being wrong there, if I'm being honest, because it's hard to find any evidence, but typically if I can find any evidence of that cash flowing, I know where my mind is going. So we're sort of at a loss for how Erika was living the high life in Manhattan, arguably the most expensive city in America, as well as one of the most expensive cities on earth. She's going out for food, partying, drinking, as we'll see, which is a conflict for later. My bad, ahead of myself again. And having all of her bills paid, seemingly by magic, because she's not.
This is not her Instagram either. Go to her real Instagram and you can see that this photo from 14 years ago when she was modeling and not a Christian is not on her page. Sheep tart. This isn't Erika's Instagram. It's some sicko that's using her photos from 14 years ago and trying to make it seem that she put these up and she didn't.
Really doing anything. She's building 2 companies, but they are, as we said, seemingly unsuccessful. And so if there's one thing that doesn't lie, it's the bills and it's the money. Someone's got to be using that money to be paying them bills. And so we have to try taking one last look at her family, but this time not at her parents, although they might have been involved. Instead, this time we're going to look at her roommate, which seems unexpected, but let's go. More than once, Erika Kirk has discussed how she dated no one during her 5 years living in New York until she met Charlie, which is outright and easy.
Das ist, by the way, etwas, was sie jetzt sehr häufig auf dieser Tour, wo sie Charlie trauert, gesagt wird. Und ich glaube, das ist auch etwas, was davor auch schon mal Thema war. Aber
disprovable lie, but that's for later. Erika says she really didn't want to date because of the following reasons.
I'm not going to ask you your personal journey, but what I will say is when I lived out here, I was here for 5 years. I never dated here because I saw vicariously through my roommate how terrible it was. Somehow getting drinks was the replacement of having coffee and breakfast. I personally would rather have coffee or brunch with someone than go. I don't drink. I find it unproductive, not because I'm holier than whatever.
I don't drink.
I just don't operate that way. But I always thought it was very strange how she would go to drinks with one guy and then go to dinner with another. So it goes twofold here. So if you're expecting to marry someone that I was blessed with, like a Charlie, you have to be the type of woman that will attract a Charlie.
This was one of the only interesting tidbits in this horribly staged interview with that broad Weiss, whatever her name is, because it made some of us go, huh, I wonder who that roommate is that was such a bad influence. And lo and behold, after scouring Erika's various social media platforms,
oh yes,
videos began emerging.
Naja, Charlie hat zumindest einen Shot getrunken.
Like these.
Definitiv kein Alkohol, oder?
And so now we can call into question who Erika Kirk really was in those 5 years, but once again, don't want to get ahead of myself. And instead we're going to hone in though on who is appearing in many of these videos. And based on a bunch of comments ranging as far back as 10 years ago on Erika's various accounts, we see a common thread that this same female is commenting on Erika's posts, and she just so happens to look like Erika's roommate who appears in these videos. And her name is Nicole Rothstein. Rothstein. And Nicole is actually not just her roommate or soulmate or best friend, whatever she calls her. Nicole is also Erika's cousin. And this is going to become a much bigger deal as we move forward.
Okay.
Nicole, unlike Erika, at least, at face value comes from money, and interesting money at that. The Rothstein name is not exactly synonymous with honesty. If they were in a dictionary, those two are on the opposite ends of one another. In fact, antonyms would probably be a better way to put it. In this photo Erika posted in 2017, she is sitting next to a man whom I wager to be in his 50s, and another man who's standing in front of her, who I would wager is putting the pedal to the metal, pushing 70, late 70s that is. And at the time, and really up until recently, if you had clicked on that photo on Erika.
Warte, was? Das ist Larry Guinter. Ja, das ist auch der Name von dem Typen. Der ist bei Erikas alter Basketball-Website unter Eltern auch angegeben. Ich glaube, du spoilerst das Video gerade. Warte mal, wir schauen noch.
Kirk's account on Instagram,
Warte.
you notice that there's someone tagged, and that someone tagged is named Alan Rothstein, who Erika says is her uncle. And this old dude, I'm presuming here is Gramps, and this uncle that she references, I can only imagine is on the mother's side and is a member of that unknown segment of Erika's family that is seemingly being obfuscated. In any case though, when reviewing who Alan Rothstein is, I can understand why Erika may have chosen to hide that side of her family, because Alan is not, as Hannah Montana says, the boy, the honest goods, the real McCoy. My goodness. Uncle Alan has been involved in several criminal operations.
Oh shit.
For instance, there is a long case file which goes into detail about how Alan defrauded someone of hundreds of thousands of dollars. He was supposed to be a consultant, but was actually just an insider, kind of like a spy, and was just getting info and using his position to spend hundreds of thousands of the company's dollars doing nothing. And Alan, if you're watching this, just want to say, that's not cool, bro. Jerk move.
What the fuck?
Document then gets deep into legal jargon, but discusses tens of millions of dollars at one point in falsely claimed assets, and then goes into the realm where a lawyer might be mildly confused. At its heart though, Alan seems to possess the sticky fingers that his namesake is so infamous for, as we shall see. And lo and behold, someone who likes to pilfer the proverbial cookie jar also possesses a number of what are pretty obvious, in my opinion, front companies. I run into a ton of these in videos. They're companies with little or no website, no customer history, no definable product, and they just sit there for years and sometimes decades doing nothing. But they are convenient for running money through, especially ill-gotten money, which seems to be Alan's MO. Not kidding, I was peeping through his companies and he's got a property management company, a hedge fund, and a bunch of others, and none of them seem to actually do much. That all said, whatever Alan and his family are doing is evidently working quite well for them, I might add. As Alan, though through a tool I use, I learned that Alan lives in a $13 million home. Not bad for a guy who seems to have never really worked a job or built anything himself. And that sort of cash also speaks to who was funding Erika's cousin Nicole, and possibly Erika herself, while they live the expensive Manhattan life, doing nothing of material value. Now let's jump another step into the family and hit up Carla Solomon, originally Carla Francevy. This is apparently Erika's dad's sister, so once again, a little info on the mom's side. Carla can be explained in the following words. From the YouTube commenter, Vivian Ballard, 391 5 years ago. I'm not implying that she is only interested in the financial stability of men. However, it must be said that she avoids relations with impoverished men. YouTube really is a wonderful place. Thank you for that comment. In other words, Carla married a man about 29 years older than her by the name of Jack David Solomon. A 29-year age difference. Jack himself is a bit of a character. He's one of the few people who have been born in America that possesses such an immense affinity for Israel. And oh yeah, we're going there. Jack is...
Scheiße, Alter. Das ist eines der schlimmsten Rabbit Holes, in denen ich jemals war, glaube ich.
Has been a leading executive, or simply the leading executive, at a plethora of some of the largest companies on Earth, many of which possess multi-billion-dollar evaluations and/or are simply government operations. For instance, for whatever reason, he was plopped into the chairman position of the board of directors for things like Federal Land and Development Corporation for 36 years, and Federal Research and Development, and Advanced Patent Technical. All sorts of things that when I'm reading it make me go, who are you really, bro? Especially because a sort of thing like that requires power, influence, money, control, and access, and gains you a lot of power, influence, money, control, and access. And for this next bit, I'm just gonna skim through some of the organizations he's been highlighted as being a member of from his death website, although I assure you there are likely many, many others. Membership: National Directory Quality Operations Foundation, 1963 to 1966. He's a sponsor of the National Hospital of Denver. He's also the co-founder of the Israeli Armored Corps Museum. Patron or Chadash Orphanage Israel. Vice Chairman California Democratic Council, 1966 to 1970. Candidate for California State.
Falls ihr euch das jemals schon gefragt habt, by the way, so sieht der Lebenslauf von einer Person aus, die absolut noch nie irgendwas in ihrem Leben gearbeitet hat und einfach nur über Korruption und Kontakte durchs Leben geleitet wird.
1966, director of the United Jewish Foundation, 1956 to 1967, committee member for the Los Angeles Chamber of Commerce, member of the World Affairs Council, member of the President's Cabinet for the American-Israel Public Affairs Committee.
Wie sind diese ganzen Kindersexringe in Verbindung mit Israel? Das ist nur Zufall. Das ist nur Zufall.
Member Las Vegas Chamber of Commerce. Oh yeah, that would be because he was a controversial casino owner. He was also the director of the Utah Shakespearean Festival, 1999 to 2000. Seems like a weird addition. He's also the member of the American Air Museum in Britain, a foundation member, the Armed Forces Commission and Electronics Association. Sounds powerful. National Aeronautics Association, International Association of Business and Professional, honorary. B'nai B'rith, President Club, Utah Valley State College. Yes, that's where Charlie Kirk was shot. President Club, Brigham Young University. President Club, World...
Oh mein Gott. Dieses Video fühlt sich mittlerweile an wie eine Verschwörungstheorie.
Jewish Congress, life. 32nd degree Mason, Scottish Rite, life. Yeah, so a lot of things should stand out to you there. The UVU, the massive ties to Israel, the powerful committees and organizations, and I could really out for a while just about the Israel connections alone and why that's weird. But if I have to tell you that, then you've probably been living under a rock and have missed the dozens of red flags I just read. But these connections do go deeper than that, so deep that bro paid for and restored the ancient Zion's Gate and Plaza in Jerusalem, which is rather a big deal to folks over there. Needless to say, he's sort of a huge deal in that community, and he's also very...
He was sitting by my family's dedication sign for restoring the Zion Gate in Jerusalem. Holy shit. What? Meet Dala, a Romanian Jew now calls Israel home. That's crazy.
Clearly connected to the highest echelons of the government and business, and the people who decide if...
Wer hat das restored? Die Schwester von Erikas Grandfather, anscheinend.
And what you shall eat. What an odd family member for Erika to have, considering I was under the impression she was a Christian girl from Scottsdale, Arizona. But if this all didn't elucidate you to the fact that we are talking about some seriously connected people, like I said, he's a member of this thing called, that I can't pronounce, it's a Jewish secret society named B'nai B'rith. It's a very unique organization, very secret society-esque, very Freemason-esque, which apparently is controversial because they claim it's antiseptic to say that they are Freemason related, despite having a huge portion of their founding members actually being Freemasons as well. So take that as you may. But whatever, toss that aside. We also know from that whole blurb, Jackie Poo is a 32nd degree Freemason, which should be ringing bells for everybody. From the most unfamiliar with this sort of quote unquote conspiracy theory world to the most familiar, the Masons are weird people. I've had personal experiences with them. I'm for sure on a list of theirs. That's a story for another time. But if you're really unfamiliar, putting
Der Typ wird legit bald verschwinden, glaube ich, ja.
As short as I can. It's an organization that is a complete secret society. It's very occult. They worship Satan, but that's a point for another time. They have been known as global manipulators for centuries. Countries have banned them because of who they are, but they are known to use their wealth and intrigue to control nations and to shape the futures of people and nations, and may or may not, definitely were, in my opinion, involved in assassinations historically, and things like the planting of people into positions of power that allow them to exert further control and influence, and you know, the everyday stuff. But I'm sure none of that should sound even remotely familiar or be ringing true for the overarching Erika Kirk story, because that'd be weird. On top of all this, Solomon's also known for some immense scandals, including stock fraud, investor fraud,
Muss man halt schon vorsichtig schauen, wo man im Verschwörungsschwurbel drüber driftet. Ja, diese Grenze ist hier haarscharf, Real Talk. Also das ist wirklich eine haarscharfe Grenze gerade. Weil so legit alles bis zu dem Punkt mit ihren Eltern ist faktenbasiert komplett richtig. Das weiß man ja. Das ist ja alles komplett klar. Dann das mit den Eltern müsste man natürlich gegen researchen, aber dieser NSA-Ding, das klingt halt schon noch plausible, würde ich sagen. Und danach, dieser ganze andere Teil mit ihrer Familie wird so vollkommen absurd einfach. Das ist so fucking weird. So, ich meine, wenn man sich so den Rest von ihr anschaut und was sie jetzt macht, wo sie gerade steht, was mit Charlie Kirk passiert ist, sowas in die Richtung, so, dann könnte man sich schon denken, da kann was dran sein. Aber es ist trotzdem halt sehr viel Speculation, die dahinter steckt. Also, keine Ahnung.
Casino fraud. In fact, he built a casino and then got taken out of the CEO position because of his fraudulent activities. He wasn't allowed to be in control of the company anymore. All sorts of stuff like that. Make you go, huh, it seems like quite the character. And yet he amassed massive fortunes and got appointed to all these big companies and was also appointed to the government to very important roles. So it makes you wonder who he actually knew and who he actually was. But leaving those two oddball characters right in the dust, here's where things are going to get even loonier. Rothstein is not only a relatively rare name, making it more than not simple to trace, it's also an infamous name, most especially if you're a sports aficionado, specifically baseball. Let me explain though. Long before Alan and Jack were manipulating corporations, looting the masses, and stacking it up into their $13 million homes, let me reiterate, 13 million, that's the sort of money only like a handful of people on Earth possess, so what's going on there? And I think I know the answer because there is a pretty clear progenitor to the Rothstein proclivity of purloining the populace's purse, and his name was Arnold Rothstein, a Jewish criminal who, it's widely asserted, fixed the 1919 World Series. He bet over $250,000, which at that time is an unprecedented fortune, roughly $5 million today, but that doesn't really factor in for the lack of buying power and
Es gibt aber gelehrte Journalisten, die das alles legit nachforschen könnten und veröffentlichen könnten, aber macht irgendwie keiner.
All that means. He, in essence, made the bet, the wager, that Chicago would lose to the Cincinnati Red Stockings in the 1919 World Series. For color on who Rothstein is, he didn't come out of nowhere. Rothstein was a longtime fixer, or in other words, cheater, as well as financier of crimes of all kinds, from the least degenerate to the maximum degeneracy. But in this specific instance, with the 1919 World Series, he, through a series of payoffs and threats to, you know, people's families, ensured that the Cincinnati Reds won, the people who he bet on, which is illegal for all sorts of reasons. Arnold, though, having friends in politics...
Das ist das Next-Level-Matchfixing. Das ist nicht so, man bezahlt vielleicht den Spieler, dass er irgendwie was sabotiert, sondern alle werden damit bedroht, dass ihre Familien gekillt werden. What the fuck?
Let me reiterate. Politics, the legal system, like judges, and the police got off on all charges despite it being the most obvious crime ever. Arnold is not a great guy to replicate or follow in the steps of, but he has become infamous enough that he even shows up in literature and movies, most specifically as the character Mayor Wolfsheim in the not-so-great kind of...
Wait, das ist der? Nein, halt die Schnauze. Was?
Short-sighted and whipped Gatsby. You can also thank Arnold for most of the crime syndicates that formed in the intervening years after his death. Yes, he was shot to death. Surprise, surprise. And the modern-day drug and human trafficking, etc. of today was in large part possible because of his initial funding of such crime networks. And so yeah, really a interesting guy in that family tree. But all in all, he's just an awful dude. But importantly, he's...
Und der ist jetzt verwandt mit Erika Kirk, oder was? Also, so...
a Rothstein. And so here I'm going to say something. There is a missing link, and I think it's one of the most critical links possible, and I hope you all can assist me here with it. Arnold Rothstein, likely resulting from his profession of, you know, murdering people and causing crime, kept it under wraps if and how many children he had and where they lived. And so it's been very hard to really connect to who he is. But if you look down the family tree and at some of his siblings and all that, you will notice that there are more Rothsteins that continue on the family name. But they all do something very interesting across genealogy sites. And the genealogy sites themselves might be in on this. And the thing they do is that they redact the children of these initial Rothsteins. And so that makes it very hard, dare I say impossible, for us to know who are actually Rothsteins today and if they're 100% connected to one another. And so I ask you guys to help me out here to
what the fuck?
Try and find these missing links to start building this family tree so we can officially connect Erika Kirk to these Rothsteins and to these known criminals and justice system manipulators, just generally bad people. And I imagine that they probably keep this quiet and are trying to hide their identities, especially if Erika Kirk is one of them, because it would be pretty obvious that we shouldn't trust these people, as there are generations of Rothsteins who have committed all of these heinous crimes, and to think that they would be in such position.
Death, March 16, 2005, Jerusalem, Israel. Achso, Nein, nevermind, warte kurz. Ich habe mich gerade verlesen. Ich dachte gerade, egal, vergiss.
Of power today might cause the American people to go, huh, we don't really want that, do we? But I don't want to yap too much, but we have this very obvious missing link, and it's hard to bridge those sorts of things when you cover up and when the family covers up all this information. But there's one thing the family can't account for, and I think it's rather ironic, is that the Rothsteins have seemingly never built anything of value themselves, but they certainly do know how to steal it. And so you have the original Rothstein stealing, the Solomon guy stealing, and then you have Alan Rothstein also stealing, committing fraud. It seems like the real family trait in the family heirloom is the ability to thieve and commit crimes and to get away with it enough to profit. Once again, let me reiterate, $13 million house, yet he's never built a business. Digressing though and getting back to the main track, it seems bizarre then that we have...
Ja, to be fair, ich würde gar nicht so sehr auf das Stehlen eingehen. Ich glaube, es ist einfach viel Erben und Geld einfach anlegen, oder? Also, dass jemand, der aus so einer Familie geerbt hat, mutmaßlich, nie arbeiten muss, ist ja ein offenes Geheimnis. Der kann ja machen, was er will. Er kann Geld verlieren, wie er will. Der wird niemals arm werden.
All these missing links.
Wenn du davon ausgehst, jetzt rein theoretisch, wir gehen da ja zurück auf 1920 oder sowas, ja, wo der da dieses Baseball-Match gefixt haben soll, wenn die überhaupt wirklich miteinander verwandt sind. Wenn jemand in der Zeit zwischen 1920 und 1940, 45, sagen wir mal, also so Nachkriegszeit, mehrstellige Millionenvermögen hatte, dann ist das heute halt mehrere 100 Millionen mit Vererbung, keine Steuern und Interest. Also, wenn jemand so viel Geld damals hatte, das kannst du gar nicht mehr verlieren, sozusagen.
And we've also got Erika Kirk, who won't really discuss her mom's side, past her mom and the missing names and the using the incorrect Swedish terms and the fact that there aren't any pictures of really her parents' face. And on that note, there is one video that exists that people speculate might be her grandparents, and it's on screen now. In any case, though, it does make it increasingly difficult to trace her. But digressing, again, we go through all of this family history to say that this is very possibly Erika Kirk's ancestry. And if we consider just how terrible these people are and the things they've been up to, including political manipulation, if Erika Kirk is related to them, that would be an insane link that would really throw a wrench in her story. And I think it would be enough for people to go, hold on, wait a minute. And I suspect that's why we won't officially know unless someone out there, one of you guys, can find that missing link for us, for which I'd be so grateful. But something else interesting is still worth noting. We might not know Erika's exact family lineage, but presuming that they are Rothsteins, it's rather strange then that Rothstein shares family ties to another family, another prominent Jewish family that has been the center of many theories for hundreds of years and has been involved in everything from currency manipulation to economic crashes and to assassinations and everything in between, and that family would be the Rothschilds. Indeed, I was rather surprised to see that the two families are related, and pretty directly, because all I had to do was scroll over to the side and boom, there it was. The Rothsteins and the Rothschilds, two infamous crime families connected right next to one another. Who knows, maybe this is all just one giant coincidence wrapped in a coincidence, taped in a rigmarole, but I really don't believe in those, and I'm not comfortable just saying things are just a coincidence. I think that's a lazy excuse when too many facts start presenting themselves. And so I will leave it on this note. I firmly believe that what looks like a duck, walks like a duck, and quacks like a duck is probably a duck.
Okay, what the fuck war dieses Video? Vor allem, es ist Part 1. Wann geht's weiter? Das ist Part 1. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the community for the public different perspectives. Nothing's fine should be taken as fact. Thank you for watching. Some changes have been taken out of the studio. Blah, blah, blah. Minecraft Server ist live. Okay, chillig. Wann kommt der nächste Teil? Er hat auf jeden Fall Quellen drinnen. Ich glaube, er hat das einfach Part 1 genannt, damit die Leute auf ein zweites Video warten und falls er jetzt abducted wird und verschwindet, dann wissen sie Bescheid. It sounds like someone planted Erika in Charlie's life. Digga, halt wirklich. What the fuck? Fourth Stage of Grief Pyrotechnics. Und warte mal, aber Chris hat jetzt was rausgefunden, was da sehr spannend ist, ja? Und zwar das hier. Basketballteam, right? Scottsdale, Arizona. Und du meintest hier, warte mal, als Parents ist hier, wo ist es? Parents are Lori and Kent Friends wie Larry Guinter. Warum steht hier ein zweiter Name? Wie Parents are und dann sind da 3 Leute. Und Larry Guinter ist dieser Typ aus diesem weirden Business und der ist jetzt, was? Was ist das? Chief Technology and Advanced Science Officer for E3 Tech with extensive... Hä? What the fuck is going on? Hat jemand das schon gelöst, den Familienstammbaum? What the fuck? Und Guinter war auch ein Alias ihrer Mutter? Gehen wir auf die E-Tech Group Site. Online School Safety Training. Hä? Making life better and more secure. We specialize in COVID-19 logistical solutions. You may need intelligent security. You may need to assess your supply chain for risk. You may be wanting to improve your physical security, or you may be looking for humanitarian food and shelter solutions. Digga, das ist doch AI, oder? Also das ist doch AI. Diese Website ist 100% AI generiert. Auch das Spacing und sowas. Geh auf Products. EMP Defender, Supply Chain Risk Assessment, Network Cloaking. Thought Learning Engine, Drone Defense. Drone Defense? About the team. The team is composed of people who have built, sold and developed the product for years. Our experience will make you successful. What the fuck? Na, Bro! Hä? Das ist eine fucking... Contact us. Halt die Fresse. Halt die Fresse. What the fuck? AI Cyber Defense. Das ist so fucking Geldwäsche. Wie können wir es less obvious machen? What the fuck? Das ist verrückt. Oh mein Gott. Das ist crazy shit. What the fuck? Ich bin sehr gespannt, was wir da noch sehen werden. Ob da noch was kommt. Schauen wir mal.